Okay, well, welcome to another edition of Real Estate Investor Talk, and we're here in Birmingham, United Kingdom. It's in the West Midlands. I've just been on a fantastic property tour, and I'm first going to introduce you to the guest. It's Dave Portas. Dave is an investor first and foremost, and secondly, he also is a property coach here in the UK, but also runs a property letting business. Am I right?
I do indeed, yeah. I also run a property sourcing company as well.
Excellent. So in Birmingham, and I know you from up north, from Grimsby and that kind of, maybe just tell us a little bit about where your property journey started.
Okay, so back in 2006, I met my current wife, and she lived here in Birmingham actually, and very quickly she decided to relocate up to the north to where I lived, and we rented out her property here. It was only a small two-bedroom property. It didn't cash flow very much, but by 2008 the interest rates dropped here significantly, and that meant that the difference between the mortgage payment and the rent we were receiving became quite considerable, and it kind of opened my eyes to the fact that actually you can make decent cash flow from property. So I did some research, looked at a few houses around Grimsby, read a few books, got myself a property coach, and he really kind of taught me the way to move forward with property very quickly. That was in early 2010. By September 2011 I gave up the day job, which was managing power stations. I was in a corporate management position, and I've replaced my income through various streams of income through property, through building a portfolio, sorting property for other investors and taking a fee for that, and then also putting kind of like a buffer of cash in a bank account that would see me through any periods where maybe the income wasn't so great that month or this, that and the other. To this day I've never had to use that buffer, so I've always kept moving forward with property. As Neale has said, I now work for Legacy Alliance as a property mentor. I do property coaching as well. I have a lettings company here in Birmingham, I also have a lettings company in Grimsby, and a sourcing company as well. Okay,
so Dave, we've been around Birmingham, and what a big city. Just for those out there in South Africa, it's the second biggest city by population in the UK after London, of course. And I learned so much today. First of all, the different types of properties that we have over here. I mean, first of all, we have a mid-terrace, we have end of terrace, we have a detached, a semi-detached, we have flats, we have maisonettes. Where did it start? With a normal buy-to-let property?
Absolutely. So my first property that I bought was a mid-terrace property. I bought it for £44,000. We did approximately a £12,000 refurb on the property, and then 6 months later I refinanced it, and it revalued to £75,000. So nearly all of my money that I put in to buy that property, we took back out on the mortgage when we refinanced it. So that was the first deal, and then probably the first kind of year I kept buying them similar sort of properties and recycling that same amount of deposit of investment with using a mortgage as well to buy the next property. Then I would refinance, take that money back out and buy the next one. But after I've been doing that for about 12 months, I started looking at properties that were a little bit bigger, that I could put to bigger and higher use, or better and higher use. And those that we could rent by the room rather than rent to a family unit, we'd rent to an individual who just wanted to pay one rent, and then we covered the bills, we covered any council tax payments and things like that. So we only had one rental payment to make, and by doing that, using similar properties, we could really increase the cash flow massively, probably 4, 5, 6 times over. That enabled us to, the first one of those we did enabled Rachel, my wife, to give up her job. She was expecting our second child, wanted to move to Birmingham. So by making her financially free with just one deal allowed us to move back down to Birmingham.
Tell us a little bit about HMOs. I mean, I learned about this. This is amazing. I mean, you start looking at the cash flows, and I think for South Africans, I mean, we're talking about yields initially of like 10%, and then once you start doing the refinance, we're looking at closer to 20%. First of all, what is an HMO?
Okay. The HMO stands for a house of multiple occupation. So whereas a standard family house you would have, or buy-to-let property, you would have, say, one family unit which may consist of a husband and wife, 1 or 2 children. Maybe it's a single parent family with 1 or 2 children. Whereas in a HMO, or a house of multiple occupancy, you rent the rooms individually, and the tenants share communal services such as kitchens and bathrooms and maybe a sitting room. but essentially the only part of the house that they get for exclusive use is one bedroom. It may have an ensuite bathroom and it may have a small kitchen in, and that depends on individual investor strategies really. But the concept is that we rent to probably 5 or 6 individual people that will all share services, and because they're all paying a rent for one room, it allows us to charge much more rent for the same sort of property than if we were letting it to a family.
Okay, so also a good friend of mine, investor, he actually was a real estate advisor to Robert Kiyosaki, Dr. Riz. He says when population grows like it is in Birmingham, he says it's a great place to invest. And I mean, I saw the city today and we saw prices from round about say £120,000 to just over 200,000 in terms of the multiple occupancies. So maybe let's just take us through maybe just some of the key finances, because I saw you on your phone, you were assessing the property on each floor and how we could probably maximize the return. So probably take us through some of that kind of thinking.
Yeah, so basically the key thing that we're looking for is what's the property going to be worth when it's been done up.
Right.
Now, depending on how you do the property up, whether you significantly change the property, depends on whether you're going to get a commercial valuation or a bricks and mortar valuation. If the property is identical to the property next door, then it looks like a family house. Remember, you've just put some smoke alarms in, fitted some fire doors. It's essentially the same property as the one next door. You're going to get a bricks and mortar valuation at the end. So it's important that you know what that done up value is.
Right.
Similarly, if you're going to get a commercial valuation because you put ensuite bathrooms in every room, and you put small elving kitchens in every room, it may attract a commercial valuation depending what lenders you go to and depending on whether the property becomes licensable, which is something we can talk about later.
Yes.
Now, so the done up value is important. The second thing that's important is knowing how much money you can borrow against the property when it's being done up. So whether that's 75% of the loan to the value of the property, whether it's 65%, whether it's going to be an interest-only payment that you're going to be making afterwards, or whether you're going to have to make a capital repayment. So you need to know what your mortgage repayment is going to be once you've refinanced the property after you've done it up.
Right.
So that's a key piece of information, knowing what your mortgage payment is. Obviously, you need to know the area very well in terms of what rent you can charge per room. Once you've know how many rooms you're going to let and what the rents are going to be, depending on the strategy, whether you're fitting bathrooms and small kitchens or whether you're just having one communal bathroom or two, or one communal kitchen, etc. So you know how much rent you can charge for the property. Then you can deduct things like gas and electric utility bills. You may want to deduct council tax, which is like the local authority charge, like emptying bins, street lighting, things like that. And then you may want to be using a letting agent or a managing agent, such as my colleague Sue. They're going to charge somewhere between 8 and 15% to manage the property as well. That's based on the gross rents collected. And then you're also going to want to, for me, I always like to put a little bit aside, Neil, like 10% of the gross rent as well. There's a bit to build up a little bit of a war chest in case you have to do refits, or there's some arising maintenance like a boiler fail, something like that. So once you know what all them costs are, you can then work out on the bottom line what your net profits are.
Right.
And that can be anywhere, I would say, on a typical HMO, it wants to be at least £500 a month, maybe upwards to sort of £1,200 a month for if the property is done to a high standard. So in terms of yield and return on investment, we're certainly into double-digit yield figures, maybe between 12 and 18%. And from a return on investment point of view, the cash that you've left in the property after you've purchased it, refurbished it and refinanced it, you may be looking at anywhere between 15, 20, even 25% return on investment sometimes.
So if we're talking direct deals and we're talking about somebody who wants to invest from South Africa, they're not a resident right here in the UK, they want to get finance, first of all, is it possible? Secondly, if it's not possible, what would you suggest the way forward in terms of a strategy? Do they buy it cash, and maybe there is an opportunity maybe to refinance it a little bit later?
I'm aware that there are some funding options available for non-dom, that's non-domiciled, non-resident investors. It's very much on status. The bank's criteria change on a daily basis. The one thing I would say is if you're going to look at doing that, find yourself a very good broker in the UK. We can recommend people like that if you was to come and talk to us. You may want to approach some of the bigger banks directly, like HSBC, NatWest, Royal Bank of Scotland, or Lloyds. They're certainly people worth talking to. I wouldn't want to say categorically that yes, everybody could go out there and find a mortgage. That would be a silly thing to say.
Sure.
But yeah, so it's available. I mean, if you're struggling like that, one of the things that we would probably recommend is that you maybe look to joint venture with some guys in the UK through a UK limited company. That UK limited company will probably need to have a UK director, somebody that can be the arms and legs on the ground for the lenders, so they've got somebody that they can go to in the UK. They may need to have a majority shareholding in the company as well. So you could joint venture this, you could pool funds, or you could put the funds in, and the joint venture partner could go out and find the property, help refurbish the property, and get involved with the management of the property, and that would be their input. Your input may be just the cash. So there's several ways of maybe looking at that, whether it's somebody you know, whether it's a company that offers the service as well.
Fantastic. In closing, Dave, give us some of your top tips. You're a mentor, you're a coach, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
What to look for in a great investment?
Okay, the two. One is always make sure you've got demand. It's no good having a product that nobody wants, whether it's a house or a gadget. If nobody wants it, what's the point? So make sure that whatever you're going to buy in the UK, there is a demand for it. The second thing is, I would say, even if you're not going to invest here, make sure you do your if you're not going to come over here and invest directly, you're going to invest with other people, or you're going to use sourcing agents to find deals for you, make sure that you have some understanding of the area. So you've got some knowledge of what the property values are, what they should rent out for. Do some due diligence on the people that you're going to be working with, and on the properties that are going to be selling to you or finding for you or joint venturing with you, because you want it to make it a success, and property can deliver lots of good things. So they're the two main things: is get knowledgeable in your area, do your due diligence, and be able to run numbers. That's a key thing as well. Understand what the investment is and what it can give you.
Fantastic.
And get educated.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Dave, thank you very much for the opportunity.
No worries.
It's been awesome. It's been a fantastic day.
Great.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Cheers,
thanks.